Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, wherever you are in the world, and welcome to another episode of Securing ASEAN, brought to you by Palo Alto Networks. This is the live cybersecurity thought leadership series across Southeast Asia. Welcome, audience. You are a wonderful contributor to this show. This is, of course, live. I'm here with my friends at Palo Alto Networks, and not only is this a live show, but there will be an opportunity for giving away fabulous prizes today. So stay tuned for that. The episode today, we will be discussing the future of work with enterprise-wide SASE. SASE, of course, being Secure Access Service Edge. That might be a quiz question for later. And as the audience, we also give you the opportunity to ask questions throughout the broadcast. So if you have any questions that you want to bring to our fabulous panel, please add them in the LinkedIn comment section below, and we will do our best to answer them live on air. Also, keep an eye out for the quiz questions that are going to come up, and we will discuss. We will discuss what the fabulous prizes are in a bit. However, we want to move on to our topic of today. So, future of work with enterprise-wide SASE. Sorry. Let's bring on my fabulous guests for today. I have Pete, I have Vig, and I have Mr. Nia. Welcome, gentlemen.
Okay. Hi.
Hello.
Hi.
Yeah, well, I think we're working on Mr. Nia's camera, but while we do that, we've still got audio. So let's start from the beginning. So as the representative from Palo Alto Networks, I'll start with you, Pete. Do you want to tell us what it is you do?
Thanks very much. I lead the SASE business unit for Palo Alto Networks. I've been leading that since August 2020. I've been at Palo for coming up to 6 years, and the initial 3 years was leading the service provider group. So that group, SPs and MSSPs, have a fairly strong part to play in terms of our go-to-market and part, not just the engagement with customers, but also the fulfillment channel for the integrated SASE suite that we're bringing to market.
Beautiful. And Vig, you're next. You're in. It's very stylish. It looks like ski boots behind you. Or I hope it is anyway. Over to you.
Hi. So basically, I run a company called ViewQuest, and we are a managed security services provider based in Asia. We basically have a footprint in Singapore, Malaysia, Philippines, and Hong Kong. And we focus on helping organizations across the region on their SASE transformation.
Beautiful. Thank you, Vig. And finally, Mr. Nia, do you want to introduce yourself?
I am the CIO and CISO of the Nova Group, a conglomerate corporation in Vietnam. It is one of the top 3 biggest real estate companies. Thank you.
Beautiful. Well, gentlemen, it's an absolute pleasure to have you here on the show today, Securing ASEAN, and hopefully we'll have a good discussion. So let's start right at the beginning. So the little blurb I've got here, SASE is not just a vision anymore. In fact, it is a fact that many organizations are in varying stages of their SASE adoption already, and by removing the barriers to digital transformation, SASE increases the rate at which organizations can empower their hybrid workforce. So I suppose I should start from the beginning, possibly with you, Pete. 2 years, so much has happened in the last 2 years. We were having these conversations before the pandemic, and now we are at we're beyond that, and the cybersecurity market changed again. How has the cybersecurity market changed in the last 2 years? And have you seen any trends, headwinds, tailwinds?
I'd say we've got obviously just coming out of the COVID period, right? And I mentioned before that I took over this business unit from a fairly early start. We only had 2 SASE teams operating across Asia Pacific and Japan, and that was August of 2020. Obviously, COVID started impacting, depending on where you were around the January, February timeframe earlier that year. We saw, as an organization, we saw a massive increase in the uptake of customers in terms of secure service edge, wanting to replace legacy VPN infrastructure that wasn't scaling to meet the needs that a lot of organizations were all of a sudden finding themselves in. When you've got when traditional VPN concentrators were only scaled for maybe 10 to 20% of a workforce, and yet you've now got up to 100% of the workforce being forced to work outside of the traditional perimeter, getting that secure access back into attached to applications and corporate resources was obviously a challenge for many customers. So massive uptick during that period. Then coming out of COVID, we've seen another transformation, because prior to COVID, there was a huge movement that most of the corporations we were dealing with were undertaking. That was around branch office and network transformation. And a lot of that got put on hold as people were taken away from the offices and pushed out to homes and various other areas where they were working from. And then as people have been able to come back to work from offices, those projects have picked up. And there's now been a big transition, again, that's been occurring iteratively over the last 3 years. When you consider Gartner's original definition of SASE that was pushed out in around about, I think it was April of 2019, they're really talking about an integrated solution suite that delivered everything from CASB, DLP, secure service edge, managed network services, offered out of an integrated platform offering. Initially, as I mentioned, there were these bespoke use cases around specific feature and function requirements, whether it be a SWIG replacement, a VPN replacement, etc. Now we're seeing a lot of organizations come out with the full suite of SASE requirements when they're coming out with RFPs and RFTs. So that vision that was painted by Gartner, just 3 years ago, is now actually becoming materially accurate. So it's been an interesting transition to sit back and watch, and also engage in conversations with customers.
Yeah, it's been fascinating, the cybersecurity changes. Anybody else at the panel seen any large changes that have happened? I could see Vig's got a glint in his eye there.
No. So basically, I mean, following on what Pete just said, with the after Gartner sort of coined the term SASE in 2019, as we see the adoption of the SASE framework or the SASE ecosystem being done by companies across Asia, we see a different set of challenges because Asia is very different from the US or Europe. We are made up of many different countries, very geographically distributed, with many connectivity challenges and with numerous different providers. And for organizations to embrace this SASE transformation, it's not just about the security and there's a multitude of different vendors that need to be managed. And I guess there's a lot of different moving parts that exist that need to be addressed. In addition to that, also, I mean, fundamentally, what Gartner says when we talk about SASE is that this is a cloud-delivered solution. And unfortunately, in Asia today, the only cloud compute locations are in Singapore, Hong Kong, and Japan. And so, countries like the Philippines, Thailand, Indonesia, these countries are challenged from a performance standpoint. And these are, things that need to be addressed moving forward.
It's fascinating, and I think if we spoke to your counterparts in America, Europe, things like that, they would have seen these trends that seem to be happening, and many of them coming from the pandemic. But you know what? We're going to come back to discuss this in a minute. We need to do our first quiz question. So yes, as I said, this is Palo Alto Networks. We have fabulous prizes. I believe it's Amazon vouchers, but don't quote me on that. But the team will reach out. And in order to do this, we're going to start with a quiz question. It is not a trick question. The question is, I may have meant, yes, it's $50 Amazon vouchers. Which currency that is, I'm not sure because I'm actually in London at the moment. But $50 of Amazon vouchers could be heading your way. Can you, US dollars? Look, I've been informed by the Palo Alto elves. What does SASE stand for? A, Secure Access Security Endpoint. B, Security Access Solution Edge, or C, Secure Access Service Edge. Just write A, B, or C in the comments section below. And of course, as I told you right at the start, the answer is C, Secure Access Service Edge. But that was just our taster question. So well done, everyone. Okay, so moving on to our next. So as I say, this is a live broadcast. If you have any questions for this fabulous panel, then please comment in the LinkedIn section below, and we will do our best to answer them live on air. However, I have another question, and I'm probably going to reserve this one for Pete. When it comes to SASE transformation, is it just a change in form factor? Point your traffic to a cloud service, and then it's done. What's your experience of working with the largest organizations in the region?
No, in fact, I think it's significant. If it was simply just a form factor change, by definition, I don't think it'd be classified as a transformation. But when you're looking at moving away from traditional network-based security with on-prem physical appliances, plus, in addition to that, you're looking at consolidating a number of use cases. So as I mentioned, secure web gateways, content access service broker, DLP, IoT, etc. You've got many disparate use cases that are now being consolidated into one consistent framework. And it's almost replicating what was put out in terms of the next gen firewall offering, where a lot of, you used to have IPS, IDS, you'd have content URL filtering, you'd have advanced threat protection, all sitting in various different areas and different stakeholders being responsible for the budgets and the like. That transition is now occurring as more customers are adopting cloud delivered security services. So you've really got people, process, and technology impact. And so it's not just about looking at the functional attributes of particular product. It's also about how it obviously impacts the people and the process that's within an organization. You can have routing changes, network changes, change management issues, obviously. So there really needs to be a deep understanding that organizations need to assess in terms of their, not just today's requirements, but also the iterative requirements, because different organizations adopt SASE at different rates. Some will have an urgent, crisis need. It might be around, as I mentioned before, about, a legacy VPN being replaced. Some might be looking at replacing proxy solutions, etc. There are others that might be looking at moving to some sort of cloud-delivered CASB capability. So different customers look at the SASE framework at different times in terms of the functional requirements. And so the one thing that I think it's important to understand is having a vision in terms of where they want to go, in terms of what the end state looks like, and then planning a process step by step about how that can be achieved. It's not a simple one-click process.
Yeah, it's fascinating. So sticking on the topic of SASE and how it was implemented, let's actually look at some of the implementations of this. So my question is to you, Mr. Nia. Why did you begin the SASE journey with your company?
Thank you. The COVID-19 pandemic and consumer lockdown made work from home being the new normal, but it's also caused a lot of cyber attacks. And Nova it not only need the flexible working environment, but also need a secure workplace which must be scaling. That's the reasons why the SASE is the suitable solution for us to consider at that time.
That's very interesting. And Mr. Nia, did you face were there any challenges during the rollout? Did you find any?
Yes, we got some changes from the board of the director when we roll out the SASE, and the more changes to prove the SASE is a suitable solution can make all the requirement from the board of director like ensure the business continuity with the cyber transformation plan, flexible scaling and easy integration with all the legacy system, multi-vendor competitive, easy integrated with the other cybersecurity ecosystem from our network, right? Within the number parent company and subsidiary. And the more important thing is cost saving. We must to handle and strengthen the cyber detection with the Palo Alto ecosystem.
That is good news, and is all good now. All good now. What's your experience now? I mean, are you happy with it? Is it working, or are you still having challenges that go with it?
Yeah, because to prove the flexible cybersecurity feature, the cost saving, to bring the value not only from the solution, but we made our environment working flexible and more secure, especially in the cyber attack. It create a lot of time like phishing and make work from home trend. Yeah.
Brilliant. Okay, excellent. Thank you, Mr. Yeah. Well, I'm now going to move over to Vig. Similar question. This is success, or we'll see where we are. What are your observations? So you're dealing with customers. What are your observations from speaking to customers? What are the challenges you're seeing, and how does SASE solve them? You're a man on the ground.
I think one of the most interesting things we've seen, and it's maybe a perception of customers, when embarking on a transformation journey like this, that's, let's say, distributed across, I don't know, let's say 200 locations across the world. Traditionally, when you had to do a network transformation like this, it would involve, sending engineers to each location, and it would be quite a time-consuming process and quite challenging in terms of how do you ensure this is done in a smooth fashion. Now, one of the things that we've learned and proven during this COVID time was we've done a number of transformations for organizations that are distributed across the world. And by leveraging on technologies like zero-touch provisioning and SD-WAN, we have been able to, provision sites without actually sending anybody to that physical location in essence, by just shipping a kit to that location and having somebody plug it in. We've been able to do very rapid provisioning of sites in a much more cost-effective manner. And what basically the findings and the learnings based in essence is these transformations are not as complicated or as challenging as people would expect. With the right knowledge and the right experience, these transformations can be very seamless and can be done very easily. And these are some of the very interesting learnings and observations that we have. And even today, when we talk to customers, when we discuss, doing a transformation of 50 locations across a number of countries, the biggest concern they have is, what is your global reach? What is your ability to enable us to do this transformation? Where, traditionally organizations which were connected using your traditional MPLS type of connectivity, there was this high dependency on having to work with a very large carrier and pay very high prices because you needed a lot of infrastructure and people to go down physically to sites. But in essence, SASE transformation, SD-WAN transformation has been extremely disruptive in enabling very rapid deployment, the leveraging on commodity internet infrastructure to deliver enterprise-grade solutions.
it's fascinating to see like what's happening in Asia. I mean, as I say, I speak to your counterparts all over the world and just see these different trends that are happening. But I want to come back to that in a minute, but I need to move on to my second quiz question. So let me get to that first. So we have our second quiz question for the audience now. Three biggest challenges organizations are facing today include the following: VPN replacement, cloud SWG project, advanced SASE security. Is that true or is that false? So just write A or B in the comment section below with your chance to win the $50 US dollar Amazon vouchers. One of my audience members is actually, my participant is actually answering this. So let's see if he got it right. What is the answer? The answer is, of course, true. So yes, and well done all out there. But there is another chance. And well done, Mr. Nia, for getting that right as well. Well done, everyone. Well done. Okay. So we've had a question from the audience. So as I say, audience, if you've got any questions, please bring them in. I will ask the panel. If the panel do not know the answer, then one of the wonderful Palo Alto elves will type it into the comment section, perhaps for the more technically based questions. But this question has come in from Justin. Justin, thank you for watching. This is for anyone. Is the adoption of SD-WAN or moving to the cloud the biggest challenge?
I'd actually pass across to Vig on that one, because he's obviously had a lot of experience in actually delivering the outcome as opposed to me selling it. So I've got my opinion, but the man who's had his hands on the dials and the implementation is probably a good place to start for that answer.
Thanks, Pete. I mean, I see it as two quite separate things, right? So, the adoption of SD-WAN requires quite a bit of shift in one's mindset, where traditionally you'd go to somebody and say, look, I've got 50 sites and I need them connected through some sort of MPLS, and a single vendor comes in and does that for you. When you look at something like SD-WAN, it's the leveraging of commodity internet or a combination of different types of connectivity to achieve that outcome. So let's say you happen to have 10 offices in 10 different countries. You could end up having to deal with 20 to 30 different vendors to achieve that outcome, right? One of the biggest challenges we see sometimes in the implementation of SD-WAN in Asia, you've got remote locations that you'd be lucky if you had fiber. And I guess that, that same problem exists in the US. You don't have the same type of connectivity available all over the place. So how do we leverage on what we have in different locations to be able to give us that outcome? And this is where I think we've been helping a number of customers by being able to provide them with various options in terms of connectivity that is available in those specific locations. Recently, one of the interesting things we've been doing is actually deploying Starlink-based satellite connections and spinning up SD-WAN connections over that. So that's, I think, on one side, on the SD-WAN side of things. Then, if you look at the cloud transformation, that's obviously a completely different discussion again. But SASE is not just about moving to the cloud; it's also about how do you secure your not only your data centers, your cloud infrastructure, your mobile workforce, your offices. It's that unifying all of these different footprints or egress points or different people or where they work under one unified fabric. So I think that's the benefit that this brings to the table.
Yeah, I think I'd also like to add on that. It harks back to Vig's prior answer when you're talking about the perception around complexity, and I mentioned the fact that prospects or customers, when they're thinking about this transition, need to have a vision about where they want to get to. It also means discarding some of the legacy mindset, because as Vig alluded to, when you're thinking about moving to a cloud delivered service offering, the concept of having to have a physical asset being on site to assist in the transition is really, something of the past, because when you have a cloud delivered service offering where the only physical CPE might be an SD-WAN appliance sitting within a branch that requires, a PowerPoint and a couple of Ethernet ports, everything else is cloud delivered. So the effect of onboarding that type of capability, once you understand what the security policies are, the effect of the data transmission policies, etc., things can happen at a fairly accelerated rate as a result of that.
That's very true. That's something that we are seeing more and more. I mean, at the start of COVID, we did an implementation of almost 150 locations globally over 6 months during when everything was going into lockdown. And our biggest challenge was getting connectivity in place when telecommunications providers were prioritizing healthcare over everything else. But most recently, just last month, we did an implementation across 4 countries in Asia. I think in less than 45 days, we brought up 60 sites for a full transformation. So, the ability to do something like this is getting much faster. And when you've got the experience of how to do it, in essence, you ship that box or that edge device to that location. And once it's plugged in, it pulls all its configuration down from the cloud and onboards that site very quickly.
There you go, Justin. That was a comprehensive answer. Thank you, gentlemen. Thank you, gentlemen. So we've got one more question from the audience. This one comes from Neil. Neil Mehta, thank you for watching. What are the potential drawbacks or limitations of a SASE approach? Oh, there's a tough question there. Would anyone like to or is the answer none?
Well, I mean, look, I'll jump in and add something. I mean, SASE doesn't replace everything at the moment. I mean, you might need some VLANs or some, particular segmentation required in specific branch offices whereby there's still a requirement for an on-prem physical appliance. But, there at the end of the day, there is a significant transition that where SASE can satisfy nearing to 100% of the use cases for a lot of, small, medium, and even some of the larger enterprises. But, again, it doesn't solve everything. And that's one of the reasons why customers really need to think about what their security strategy is and how it can be effective.
Okay, beautiful. Thank you. Okay, so that's keep the questions coming, but thank you for that. Okay, I'm now going to ask a question open for the panel. Anyone can answer. The question I have is CISOs. What advice would you give CISOs in ASEAN, in Asia, looking to embark on the SaaS journey? So, what advice would you give CISOs essentially looking to embark on this journey? Who would like to take that?
Maybe Mr. Neer is a CISO.
I was going to say, Mr. Neer, you're a CISO. What advice would you give your fellow CISOs about taking on SASE?
For the SASE journey, you need to have the cybersecurity planning with the cybersecurity frameworks. Not only for the cloud transformation, especially you need some incremental item like DevSecOps, cloud security posture management, cloud workload protection, cloud network security, cloud infrastructure entitlement management. You need to have enough capability, the human resources, and had a comprehensive framework to make everything talk to each other, to make sure the cybersecurity journey, and especially had a very detailed and careful planning, make the business continuity, try to limit and reduce the impact to the business.
Beautiful. Comprehensive CISO answer. Anybody else got anything else from that they've seen from CISOs?
Another information for team. What makes the SASE being approved to show with the board of directors? You need to have the red team to conduct the cybersecurity assessment, not only from inside but also from outside, to make sure the capability in prevention and detection to show that result for the board of director.
I think those points, when you think about it, what Mr. Neer was talking about is ensuring that, you know, a SASE transformation is multifaceted. There's multiple stakeholders within a customer organization that's going to get involved. It's not just a security play. Security is absolutely one significant part of the group that needs to come together. But you're talking about connectivity. You're talking about multiple different functional outcomes that involve people, process, and technology. So no longer is it just one particular group that gets involved in that conversation. And if you don't bring the stakeholders together to share and engage around what the challenges are, you can end up coming back and having to revisit because you find you've got a failed deployment because you haven't engaged the right people.
This from the perspective of the CISO, but also from the business point of view. You need to prove that with the SASE journey, it can saving and it is scalable for the scale out and scale up when you change the human resources in your organization, especially in the after COVID-19 pandemic. You reduce or you increase the business side, and SASE very flexible to scaling and cost saving, especially the cost saving for the board of director. They don't want to spend money to hire lots of employees to manage the service because it's based on the managed service provider.
Okay. Again, similar trends that we see here in Europe. Well, let's keep that in mind with this CISO. So I want to stay on the CISO, but Pete, you're gonna have to help me here. One of the rules of this show is we're trying to avoid using acronyms. So the acronym here that's presented to me is ZTNA for the audience. That's
Zero Trust.
Zero Trust, perfect. So I want to talk about Zero Trust. Sorry, the elves gave me this question. Zero Trust itself. So we've got Zero Trust ZTNA 2.0 now. And so with keeping in with CISO, what is ZTNA 2.0, and why does it matter to a CISO, or is it just another buzzword?
So look, ZTNA 2.0 is important because if Zero Trust has been around for a long time, so you can go back to sort of days coming up to 2010, but at the end and pre 2010. But at the end of the day, the type of applications that were available, the sort of security threats that were prominent in those days, are changing. So Zero Trust is evolving as a definition and as a functional requirement. So when Palo Alto Network talks around ZTNA 2.0, it's an effective way of drawing a line in the sand to ensure that customers really are thinking about how they implement Zero Trust in the context of today's cloud transitioning. And so what we talk about is least privilege access, not just once and done. So you prove yourself once and then you're ignored and allow access through an entire application. Applications have changed these days, so they're multifaceted. They have sub-applications within the applications, and you don't want to give every person access to the entire suite. It's specifically need to know or need to access. You've then got continuous trust verification. If you think about, I think it's 100% of the malicious attacks that have occurred as a result of authorized access, and that is because they're assessed once, and then somebody has either stolen credentials or something like that, and been able to get access to an environment they would not have normally been allowed to. One of the ways of ensuring that doesn't happen is to have a system that's continually verifying that the person who gained access is indeed that person, and you haven't had your credentials stolen or something like that. The other aspect is that, a lot of solutions in the past don't inspect everything. there are some vendors, and we believe that you need to be inspecting everything. So again, if you think about the traditional VPN access is not a security connection. It provides secure connectivity, but it doesn't inspect what's occurring through the pipe. Okay, it effectively masks what is going on in the pipe. So we believe that all connection, all ports, all data needs to be inspected to ensure that no malicious transactions are occurring. And then, you've got a lot of things that are happening in terms of data. You've got data that's in the cloud. You've got data in traditional applications sitting with your data center. That data has to be protected, not just at rest, but in flow. So again, that's continuous inspection, no matter where the data is. And, there are some people that believe, well, a legacy application, a private application doesn't need to be assessed because when I say legacy, it's an older type of application. That's a problem, because even in today's world, where you've got such a transition to cloud delivered services and SaaS-based applications, the core revenue streams associated with a lot of companies out there are coming from those traditional applications, those on-premise applications. So if you're not treating them and giving the same level of trust and veracity that you would to a cloud or SaaS-based service, that's problematic. And then the other aspect is securing all apps, regardless of what type of app they are. It's a dangerous game you play if you then cherry pick about which applications you're going to treat as a secure source and what you don't. So Zero Trust ZTNA 2.0 is around consistency, providing a consistent level of service so that users, wherever they are, get access to the apps they are authorized to and sanctioned for, and they're able to gain access to applications that the corporation sanctions. And also, obviously, that the data is protected continuously, no matter where it resides.
Perfect. Well, thank you, Pete. And that brings me very nicely on to my penultimate quiz question. Question number 3. And guess what it's on? ZTNA 2.0. Okay, so if you were paying attention, audience, ZTNA 2.0 or ZTNA 2.0, depending, is a purpose built to deliver A, least privileged access, B, continuous trust verification, C, continuous security inspection, D, protection of all data, E, security of all applications, or F, all of the above. Answers down in the comments section below. I'll do my little drum roll. And of course, the answer is F, all of the above, as Pete said very succinctly. All of the above. So thank you. So we have, I have questions. The audience have questions. Where should we go now? I'll tell you what. Let's stick with Zero Trust just now, and I've got a couple of questions then from the audience. So this one's open to the panel. Zero Trust seems to be a very technical topic. What relevance does this have to business leaders and non-technical audience? How can the normal non-technical employee like me appreciate the value of a Zero Trust strategy?
I'll have a quick start. One of the principles of Zero Trust is excellent customer experience. So as I mentioned before, that there shouldn't be any differentiation around the type of data that you're trying to access, the applications you're trying to access. It should be seamless to the end user.
And then I lost Peter. So this is what happens. I lost Peter. Vig, have I lost Peter? Yes, I have lost Peter. Never mind. It's okay. I have Vig, because I know Vig wants to answer this as well. On the ground, you are dealing with customers on a day-to-day basis. I mean...
Yeah. I mean, to follow on what Pete was saying, right? The objective is for the end user not to feel any difference, right? It's to deliver that, I mean, in a sense, internally, to deliver an excellent experience to our users. And to achieve that, whilst we're implementing Zero Trust 2.0, whatever, the users should not see any impact, or really should not have to do any more to achieve that enhanced security posture.
And Mr. Nia, do you deal with zero trust in your organization?
Yes, in my organization, when I do presentation for the BOD, the most challenges is what is zero trust and how can they understand with the business storm and a lot of technical storm. I just already saw about the risk impact to the business continuity plan and the current system infrastructure and show them what the most impact and easy impact. For example, the on the target of the cyber attack and we list up a lot of information inside. And with the zero trust can help us to proactive prevention from the cyber attack because we not only had a blue team to do the cyber defense, but we also need to set up a red team to proactive conduct the cyber security assessment inside. And we also had another team like purple team to strengthen the policy procedure, and we had a consulting team to do the research, the technology, and apply the NIST framework, and to apply the zero trust in strategy in my organization, and make sure all four functions working each other to make sure we conduct the security test every day. After we had a result from the red team, the blue team strengthen and enhance the cyber security rule and update their security system, and security policy will improve the policy, and we will define and to do the benchmark about the strategy framework with the list industry framework like NIST. Yes.
Fascinating. And okay, so I have a question from the audience again. Maybe in Pete's absence, you gentlemen can answer that. We may just have his audio, but we'll see in a second. The question has come in from Neil again. Thank you, Neil, for watching. So, what are the emerging trends and developments in the SASE space? How might they impact organizations in the future? So have you seen any trends, developments in the SASE space that's been happening? Oh no. Now you're on mute.
Yeah, sorry. So I think, since Gartner came up with this term SASE a couple of years ago, we are starting to see more and more vendors come out and put themselves forward as SASE vendors, and we're seeing the maturity of the offering evolve. And if you look at our experience with Palo Alto's Prisma Access ecosystem, from the day it was launched to where it is today, we have seen very rapid maturing of the product. Where originally it was supporting the remote workforce from a high VPN scaling solution to now being enabling us to secure your various branches, your data centers, and things like that. And then even most recently they have this functionality which allows us to see employee performance of their network. So, for example, if somebody who's working from home reports into the help desk that he's having application issues with, let's say, Zoom, the IT help desk is able to see where that problem is originating from. So I think what we're saying is it's very early days of what the SASE is, and we're seeing a lot of evolution and a lot of functionality and maturing of the platform happening. And because all of this is delivered from the cloud, it doesn't require any physical upgrades or anything to be done at the enterprise or the customer location, because all this is happening in the background in the cloud and just making our lives easy, right? I mean, if you draw parallels, we've all seen how, I don't know, the Netflix user interface changed over time, right? So seeing the same thing happen with these SASE offerings.
Interesting. Okay, well, I mean, as I say, you are a man on the ground, and of course, I think we've got Peter back. Welcome back, Peter. It's okay. We were just killing time till you got here. It's all right. It's all good. It's all good. So we were just discussing Neil's question. We asked the question, what are the emerging trends and developments in the SASE space, and how might they impact organizations in the future? I think Vig has covered everything very well. I don't know if you may have something to add, Peter. If not, I will move on to the final quiz question. No, I think we've covered that. Okay, so the final quiz question. This one is going to be a special one. It involves scanning on a QR code. So you can get your phones on the ready, though there is do I get the question, or do I just have to, like, apparently not. Apparently I just show this screen and the magic of technology happens. So give this a scan. Apparently I have the question, so you can scan it and answer it. A SASE solution helps organizations embrace cloud and mobility by providing network and network security services from a common cloud-delivered architecture. If you scan the code, you can enter the true or false. A SASE solution helps organizations embrace cloud and mobility by providing network and network security services from a common cloud-delivered architecture. Is that true or is that false? And you just scan the little code, or you can type it in there, and maybe the elves can also add the link into the LinkedIn comments section. Thank you. I think that's hopefully you all got the code. Maybe we could show it close at the end. Well, thank you, panel. I have a couple more questions for you. One of them that's come in is it's going back to Zero Trust. So Pete's favorite. This is from Chris. Chris, thank you for watching. How is the process of ZTNA? When you mentioned the applications of varying levels of access for different users. So I suppose, how do you find the process of having this different levels of access for different users?
As I said, it really gets down to understanding a user's requirements in terms of access to the data and within it. So it also gets down to what an organization is prepared to accept. So I mean, things like Zoom has chat capability, etc. So I mean, you've got the ability to disable various aspects of an application as opposed to providing, full access to it. Think about SFDC. There are multiple features within the SFD platform. You wouldn't give everyone access to every single element of SFDC in terms of gaining that. So based on your user credentials, your user access, user ID, you'll be put into certain groups that gets access to specific areas within an application and access to the data within that. And then the solutions understand based on your user attributes about what you're able to get access to. Potentially Mr. Nia or Vig would like to add some additional context to that, but that's effectively what occurs.
I was going to ask Mr. Nia this, because as a CISO, you will have had to not compromise, but you will have to agree on levels of permissions for what members of your organization could and couldn't access. How were those conversations? Did you just lock everything down, or did you have to compromise?
For secure access, we had to define the many level for assessment, not only from inside, but from outside, and we define pay on the business requirement. For this business requirement, we had to do judgment, and we had RASI to come together with the level access into the internal network. And we also to have the other system from the SOC Security Operations Center with some SYEM solution to manage and make sure every asset be in monitoring and the right access level for all of that.
Fantastic. Vig, have you, as my man on the ground, have you got anything you want to add to that, or have we covered everything?
No, I mean traditionally when we look at application control, right? I mean, today a lot of applications are web-based to an extent. So I mean, just simplistically, right? I mean, if you take Facebook for example, we might want to allow the majority of the organization to basically access it, but only certain people within the organization to post, for example. But it's really more on the application access. And Zero Trust, while incorporating that, it's really about the continuous inspection of the trust of the user whilst it's accessing those applications, because that user's security posture could change during the session. So I think one should not be too focused on, okay, how do we achieve the various granularity of what the user can do with a particular application. But in essence, what is the essence of Zero Trust, which is the ability to continuously evaluate the user's security posture or the user whilst he's accessing these various resources. It could be applications, it could be internet, it could be a whole lot of things. But in essence, the transition is, in the past, we verify who the user is and then let him go, and he's able to do anything for the duration of his session. But in 2.0, it's really that continuous evaluation. And that distinction, I think, is what is important to understand here.
Fascinating. And I've realised what time it is, so I've got one more question for the panel. My final question is: so we've spoken about the SASE market. Look at the SASE market right now. What criteria should be used to determine winners and losers in this? I mean, which is an ultra competitive space. The pros and the cons, winners and losers.
Well, I mean, we just spoke about, ZTNA 2.0. There's some, again, key, I think about as opposed to the specific features and functions that a particular vendor might have at a point in time. You've got those 4 key principles that vendors should be aligning to ensure that, Zero Trust can be applied, or Zero Trust network access can be applied to the environment that you're looking to secure, and the way that users get access to data and applications. The other important thing to think about is that if you're aligning to Gartner's vision around what SASE is in terms of as much as possible being delivered from an integrated suite of products, which means that you have interoperability, you have consistency in terms of security efficacy, you can scale more seamlessly, and you'll end up driving a lower total cost of ownership by not having multiple data collection points within your network, etc. Then from an architectural perspective, prospective customers should be looking at that, because whilst the specific features or functions that various vendors will bring to market, they'll often leapfrog each other as long as they're aligning to the particular fundamental key principles. But one vendor A may be outpacing vendor B on a particular quarter as they're coming up for another code release or something like that. But underlying that capability is the architecture of the platform that is delivering these capabilities. And if the platform itself doesn't allow for cloud delivered scale, then no matter what a particular feature is, if there's an architectural change that has to be accomplished, you're talking about years to generally deliver that outcome. So it really is, I think, understanding the vision state that a customer wants to achieve, B, assessing the key principles, the tenets of a ZTNA 2.0 transformation, and then aligning the feature functions in terms of the outcomes, how the people are going to be impacted, the procedural impact, and whether or not the solution's underlying architecture can achieve the sort of goals that a customer is looking to get out of the solution.
But I think that nicely sums up SASE and where we are with the market right now. We have spoken about so many different things, and that is why this is Securing ASEAN is the premium cybersecurity show. And with that in mind, I have had a fantastic panel today. All that's left for me to do is to thank from Palo Alto Pete. Our CISO of the year, we have Mr. Nia, and our man on the ground, Vig. Thank you, gentlemen.
Thanks very much.
Thank you so much. You have been watching a very special episode of Securing ASEAN, brought to you by Palo Alto Networks, the cybersecurity thought leadership series across Southeast Asia. It has been a great show. We have had a great panel. We have spoken about the future of work with enterprise-wide SASE. Thank you to all our audience who have been watching. Thank you to everybody that answered the questions. I hope you scanned your QR code. The link has all been put in the comments section. You were joined today by Pete, Vig, and Mr. Nia, talking about all things SASE, and all that's left for me to do is to thank you again and say goodbye.